Hello, good evening, everyone. Mr. Kameshwara, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you. Yes.
Yes, great. Very good evening, everyone. We are just starting the session in a minute or so. Sir, you can turn your video on, so that our students would be able to see you.
Yeah.
So, as your video is
I
not
thought
on,
the
so
video is on. Just a minute.
yeah. So I was not able to see whether you were live or not. So that was the reason why I was coordinating with Sagar in the meanwhile.
Okay.
Yes.
So
All
is it
right, sir.
visible now?
Yeah, you're visible. Right. I'll just start with the intro, and you can take it from there.
Sure. Yeah.
Hi everyone, welcome to all this. Welcome you all to this webinar session. This webinar session is conducted by Geetam University in association with College Dunya, India's largest student review platform. The topic of the webinar is robotics and numerical modeling. Today we have with us Mr. V. Kameswara Sridhar. He's a mechanical engineering with more than 15 years of international experience in industry and academia. He has more than 30 international publications in the area of mathematical modeling. Research areas include mathematical modeling, drone design, and optimization. Currently, he is working in Geetam, Hyderabad as assistant professor in mechanical engineering department. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah.
So, good evening, all. So, as introduced by the host, today the topic we are going to discuss is robotics and numerical modeling. Okay. Let's not get too deep into the topic, but I would like to just give you an overview of these things and what are the importance of these topics, robotics and numerical modeling in the current days scenario, what are the job opportunities in the later stage, right? And what does the future hold for robotics and numerical modeling? What are your career options as students? You would be more interested to know what are your career options later if you do this. So that aspect also I will try to touch upon, and then I will conclude with what are the facilities we have and what we do with respect to robotics and numerical modeling at Keaton University. So to start with, I will talk about numerical modeling first. So numerical modeling, what is numerical modeling, and then why we need numerical modeling, what are the applications of numerical modeling, then what is a robot, what are the applications of robot, then I go to the future aspects of the robot and career options later. Okay, so without wasting much time, let's get going into the topic. So what is numerical modeling first of all? Okay, so numerical modeling is nothing but when you have a real world problem, um, that can be anything. We will take one small example in the coming slides and try to understand that. So, but we take a real world problem and we'll try to simplify applying some conditions on that. And then we have a real problem. And then that real problem is converted into some equations. And these equations are then solved using some numerical model or numerical methods. Once these equations are solved, you have some solution, which is in the form of numbers. And then we interpret those numbers and we come to the conclusion about the possible solution that we can apply for the real world problem. And then we try to implement it or validate it. And if it is giving us a solution, then we are very happy. We will take it forward. But if it is not the case, then we will try to understand where we went wrong. For example, maybe in simplification, we might have gone wrong. Then in writing the mathematical equations, we might have gone wrong. So we will try to correct the model that we have developed. And this cycle continues till we have one good solution for the real world problem. Okay, so I would like to thank the TU Delft people who has given me this small cartoon here. So it's about how people, the funny side of the technology, I would say. So then what is numerical modeling? What do we do in numerical modeling? In numerical modeling, we take the problem definition. Then we, as we discussed in the previous slide, we will come to the mathematical model there. And whatever the theory we know, let's say the physics of the problem, and we take the data. Okay, so and we use the data to get a mathematical model prepared. So once we have this mathematical model, we use some tools like computers, numerical methods, graphics. It can be anything. It can be any problem solving tool. It can be a Lego bricks sometimes, yes. Okay, so you can use any problem solving tool, and then we do the analysis there. Once we have the results, numeric or graphic results, then we will use some societal interfaces like scheduling, optimization, communication, public interaction. We talk to the people and we ask them, okay, is this, if it is associated with the public, let us say, is it fine? Is it, do you feel comfortable with this kind of a arrangement or something like that? And then we take it to the implementation part. Okay. So once implementation is done, then we will again, whether our, if the problem definition is correct, then you are going to have a very good implementation. Otherwise, there could be some drawbacks, some difficulties which we can change later. So, as I suggested, we will take a small example and we will try to understand what is numerical modeling first of all. So you must all be playing PUBG nowadays, right? Most of the students I see busy with PUBG. So as far as I never played it, but as far as I have seen, a guy will be falling from the sky with some parachute or something. So imagine person is falling with parachute. He will not fall with gravity, right? So there is some force that is helping him to slow down, even though the parachute is not acting, let us say, or even the parachute is there, the parachute is not, is making sure that he is not falling, he is not having a free fall there. So what is it that is stopping the free fall? Okay, free fall means he is falling under the load of the gravity. So his weight multiplied by gravity is nothing but his the force that is acting. So you all know the Newton's second law. I don't have to tell you. So what is Newton's second law? F equal to ma. Okay. So the net force acting on the body is nothing but product of mass of the object multiplied by its acceleration. When a person is falling from the sky, his acceleration is nothing but the acceleration due to gravity. So the force that is acting in the downward direction is nothing but your force due to gravity, which is Fg. But there is something which is helping him to fly high or fall slowly, let us say. That force is nothing but the force due to the air resistance. We also call it drag force, or you can call it drag, or you can take it as minus Cv, where C is the drag quotient. We are using a minus sign because it is acting in the opposite direction. Okay. If mg is taken in positive direction, Cv is taken in the opposite direction, minus. Okay. I hope it is clear for you so far. So then we use the formula F equal to ma again, and we will try to come up with some equation. Okay. So suddenly we have a difference equation here. So what is dv by dt? So from the fundamental equation of acceleration or fundamental definition of acceleration, we know that it is nothing but change in velocity with respect to change in time. Right? So we write F equal to m into dv by dt. So that dv by dt we are bringing it to the other side. So why I have to mention it like this? Why can't I directly solve using acceleration? The reason why we do that is the velocity need not be constant always. For example, the air drag can be changing from time to time. Okay. If it is only mg, there is no other force acting, then well and good. I don't have to worry about the difference equation or anything. I just can write force equal to mg, and you can calculate within what time the fellow is going to be on the ground. You don't have to be struggling with any of these equations there. But when you know that there is another force acting, which is drag force, which is in the upward direction, and that is also having an influence, that is also influenced by velocity, then you need to make sure that the difference equation is taken into account, because velocity is dependent on time and it is changing with respect to time. It is not constant. If it is constant, you are going to get 0 here, right? So then you can use this formula. Dv by dt is nothing but, so you know the balance of forces from your intermediate physics, right? So total force that is acting is F equal to Fd plus Fu. But this force is not constant or not in equilibrium, because the person is moving downwards, so you don't say they are in equilibrium. So the total force that is acting is F. So F is nothing but M into A. So here I am replacing M into A, and on the other side I have mg minus Cv. So this is M into A, I am replacing A with dV by dt. So you are going to get mg minus Cv by M. Okay. So if you simplify this equation, you can write it as dV by dt. So change in velocity with respect to time is given by g minus c by m into v. A very small problem. Let's not worry too much about it. So if you use some principles of solving a differential equation, you may come up with this equation, a little complex equation for velocity. Okay. Let's not worry about the details of that, but we got some theoretical formula which can be used to calculate the velocity of a person with respect to time when he is falling from sky with a parachute, so to say. Then if you know the value of g, you know the drag coefficient, and if you know the mass of the person, okay, so you can easily calculate what is the velocity, and with changing time you can always calculate. So substituting the values here, you are going to get a curve. So how the velocity is changing with respect to time, you will be able to understand it. No big deal. But then there are cases where you don't know, you don't have an equation. Okay, you have the basic mathematical equation what we have given here, that is dV by dt equal to g minus c by m, g minus c by m into v, but you don't know how to solve it. You don't know how to arrive at this. Then there is another way of doing it. The other way is using numerical methods. So what we do in numerical method is we use something called Taylor series and we give an expansion. Okay. Don't worry about Taylor series. If you don't know about Taylor series, nothing to worry. Instead of dV by dt, I am writing it as, what is dV by dt in words? Change in velocity with respect to change in time. So what is change in velocity? Change in velocity is change the velocity at time t I plus 1, and so that is then at let's say a person is falling at with respect to time. If we say at 0 seconds he started falling, at 1 second he is at some position, at time t equal to 2 seconds he is in another position. Like that you have some positions, right? So at different times, ti plus 1 and ti are two different timings, and difference of these two timings you are calling it the change in time. So dV by dt is nothing but change in velocity with respect to change in time. And I am writing g minus e by m, the velocity at time ta. Okay. So if I rearrange the terms, I know what is the velocity now. Okay. So you can say that at the starting point time is 0. So the velocity at the starting point is also 0, let us say. So you can substitute velocity of at ti or t naught is equal to 0, and you can calculate what is the velocity at time t equal to 1 second. So using this difference equation, we call this a difference equation. You can always calculate what is the velocity. Okay. Then you can use, then what should be the delta t? What should be the change in time I can use? If I use 2 seconds for change in time, let's say the person has started at 0 as we thought of, and his velocity is also 0 there. At 2 seconds, if you start substituting here, you are going to, this is just a rearrangement of terms from here. Okay. The equation what you are seeing here is a rearrangement of terms from here. So at t equal to 0, velocity is 0, this is 0, this difference is 2, g is 9.81. Okay, you have value for c, you have value for m. So substituting those values, you will get the velocity at t equal to 2 seconds as 19.6. Similarly, you can keep on calculating. Now you know at 2, you can calculate at 4. Once you know 4, you substitute here the value of 4 and you will get the value of 6 here. So like that, you can keep on increasing and start calculating the values. And you are going to get a curve which is based on these values. Okay. But if you observe carefully, these values will be slightly different from what you got here. Okay. If you observe here at 2 seconds, it is 16.4. Okay. But here it is 19.6. Okay. So to improve, if you want to improve on the results what you got, so you have to reduce the delta t value. That's one trick people use in numerical modeling. Okay, so this is one very simple example where you have a very simple equation which you are solving using numerical modeling. So if you are planning to, let us say a military operation is going on, you want to know how much amount of time or in how many seconds the person is going to land on the soil. Then you can use some of these equations and know how much time it takes for him to get down from the flight onto the ground and start the operation. Okay, because every second counts there, so you would like to, or every millisecond counts in such operations, so you would like to make sure that your calculations are correct. So you will go for a very small delta value, 2 seconds, 1 second, or even 0.1 second to make it more accurate. Okay, so this is what is numerical modeling. Okay, I hope the concept of numerical modeling is at least clear for you now. Then why we need to use numerical modeling? One example we have seen is a parachute now, but there can be many other applications. For example, a projectile trajectory. Projectile can be a missile, as you can see it in the image here, or it can be a stone thrown at some other person, or it can be a ammunition that is fired from a tank. Okay, it can be anything. Okay, so it has a given velocity. Okay, for example, you are operating from a tank. You are planning to fire some ammunition. At what angle the barrel should be projected? What should be the angle that you should choose? Okay, so all these things you should know beforehand. Okay, so your interface inside the tank should be able to tell the person who is operating the barrel, okay, if you keep it at this position, it is going, the ammunition is going to land at so and so location. So that information you should be able to provide to the tank personnel, the person who is operating the barrel. So if that information is correct, then it will be very easy for the soldiers to do the job that they are expected to do. Okay, so that's one aspect. Next is temperature distribution on the surface of the sun. Okay, no human can go to the surface of the temperature and take a thermometer and measure the temperature, right? So you need some other way of doing it. Okay, and that some other way of doing is nothing but numerical modeling. Using numerical models, you can always measure the temperature. Okay, so at what distance, for example, starting from the earth, on the surface of the earth, the temperature is so much. So if you go little nearer, so what is the temperature? So as the distance changes, you can get a relation between the distance from the sun and the temperature. So when the distance is 0, what is the temperature? So that will give you the temperature distribution on the surface of the sun. Okay. There are many ways. Okay. So the concept of temperature distribution, what I have given you is a very small example. Okay. So there are many complex models that are built using the equations, mathematical equations, which are based on the physics. Okay. That are used for understanding the behavior or temperature distribution on the surface of the sun. Not only in applications like that, even in farming. Okay. At the end of this presentation, I am going to give you an example of a farm bot that was developed by our students. So here also you can use the numerical modeling concept to estimate what will be the crop production, how it is changing with respect to time, and what is the demand, how demand is changing with respect to time, and such models are used by the scientists to suggest the farmers what type of crop they have to go for. Okay. No doubt, sometimes their predictions may go wrong, but still, it is always a learning curve. As the days pass by, the models become more perfect, and the estimations given by the scientists or the mathematical models will be more accurate. And then in population growth forecast. So how the population is going to look like in the coming 10 years, 20 years, which country is going to grow fast with respect to the population, which country is going to be the top country with highest population, or which country is going to be the lowest population, which country is going to have a lot of young people, which country is going to have a lot of old people, everything you can model. Okay. And then we also have medicine. Okay, so in medicine we use lot of numerical modeling. Okay, and nowadays the importance of numerical modeling in patient information management has reached a new peaks, and it is ever evolving as such. So you take a patient, what is his history, what kind of diseases he had, what type of ailments he had, and what type of medicine was used, how much of antibiotics he has used earlier, what is the response of his body, everything will be recorded, and that patient information will be used to project what can happen to him in the coming days. You must have seen there are some numerical models which can predict when a person is going to get a heart attack. So these kind of numerical models are very important for understanding the behavior of the patient and in a way save the patient from having some difficulty in the coming days. So those are the applications of the numerical model. So those are the reasons why we use numerical model. And we will see, of course, we have seen examples also there, and we see now some particular examples where numerical modeling is used. Okay. So we all know there is no person in the world who is not worried about COVID, I would say, right? Let it be its effect on the education, let it be its effect on the industry, let it be the effect on the travel around the world, tourism, almost all the fields were affected with the COVID. So now what people are doing, so they are using this concept of numerical modeling and they are trying to understand the behavior of this virus, how this pandemic is responding to different situations, what kind of variants we are getting, what kind of mutations are happening in the virus, and how it is spreading, how fast it is spreading. Okay, so what should be the distance between an infected person? If the distance is less than this, let's say that person is going to be susceptible. So on the right hand side, you can see the image, the infected host. If the person is sneezing or coughing, so how much distance the person, a susceptible person, should be at. So keeping all the environmental factors. So you can see the equation above that image. So droplets expelled per second multiplied by average number of virus particles per droplet. So all these factors put together, it's one of the research work done by one of the professors. So they can say what is the possibility of another person getting the virus. So these are all the numerical models, okay, which are very important in the current day scenario. Okay. And numerical modeling started somewhere in the Second World War also. Okay, there were UK started facing a lot of troubles with respect to the supplies. Okay, the supplies were not properly distributed to the soldiers. Some soldiers got more of the ammunition and food, whereas some got either less food or less ammunition. So they had to either wait for the ammunition to come or they have to die if the enemy is coming to them. So keeping these things in view, then they started working on this, how it has to be distributed properly. And then some numerical models have been developed, which will make sure that the distribution of ammunition is proper. Wherever there is a need, it is reaching that point immediately. So next one is the flow modeling of an automobile. Everybody knows now the F1 car racing, so you know what is the importance of flow modeling around it. Okay, so we will normally be looking at the trailing space, what kind of flow is there at the trailing space. Of course, the aerodynamics of the front side is also equally important, but also what happens at the back of the automobile will play a very important role. So we call this computational fluid dynamics. So here we will study what happens when the flow is passing over the automobile. And the resistance, I don't know if you can identify the structure there or not, is the resistance of a building to wind loads. It's a Burj Khalifa is the structure that is standing there. Okay, so we are trying to understand what is the amount of wind load or wind gust that is coming onto it, and how the structure is going to respond to that. And last but not least, one of the biggest users of numerical modeling is robotics. Okay, in robotics we have bipeds. So I'm just giving an example of one of the robots, which is called biped. So biped is nothing but a robot that walks on two legs. Okay, you can see it in the two images. One on the left hand side is an Arduino controlled one. So you can see a board there. This is the called the controller board or the Arduino board. This will help you to control the movement of the biped. Okay, and on the right hand side there is a different mechanism. Okay, so if you see the mechanism here and here, this is a 3D printed one, and this is maybe with some mechanical components there. So these are all different applications. Okay, so when we are talking about robots, let's get into the topic of robots and see what robots actually are, what is robotics, and how numerical modeling is used in robotics. Okay, so then what is a robot, first of all? Okay, I believe every one of you know this. So a robot is nothing but a mechanical device that performs human tasks either normally or by remote control. Either you control it from some other place, or already you feed in the code to the robot. So whenever a situation arises, the robot will immediately do that particular job. Okay. Need not look like the one in the image. It can be a different looking robot also. And what are the characteristics of a robot? So if you have a robot, that means it is reprogrammable. So once you have a program that is fed into the robot, you should be able to change it. Okay, you take that program, modify the program, and then reuse the robot for a different purpose. Let us say it should be multifunctional, not only do one job. So if it is like a machine which is doing only one job, no, that's not the purpose. It should be multifunctional and automatic device. Okay, once you feed in the code, it should be able to do the job on its own. Okay, you should not be interfering again and again. And what a robot should not be, okay, it should not be self-dependable. It is very debatable issue. Okay, people have tried making it self-dependable, and not a movie kind of experience, I would say, but people had real difficulties making them after making them self-dependable, and the researchers have said no to it completely later on. People say that there are people who are secretly doing research on self-dependable robots, but officially it is illegal. Okay. And then what is robotics? We have seen what is robots now, but what is robotics? So it's the science of designing and building these robots. Okay. You are building a robot, that means you are engineering robotics. And why do you have to do robotics? So because robots will do the job, the same job a human does at a higher speed, right? And it will do with more accuracy. It can work in dangerous environments. Okay, we are going to see some applications in the coming slides, wherein there can be a very poisonous environment, wherein a human cannot normally work. Okay, but you have to take it forward there. So there you will use a robot and get the jobs done. It all started in 1920 by a Czech writer, Karel. So he has given it to the public. It's not the time when robotics has started, but he coined that word robotics, and he said this is the science of working with robots. And there are three laws of robotics. It should not a robot may not injure a human. But of course, nowadays military is using robots. That's a different story. But otherwise, for civil purposes, whatever we make robots, they should not be injuring a human being. The second law is it must obey the orders given by the humans. And third law is a robot must protect its own existence. I don't know how many of you have seen iRobot movie. So we often come across in movies that the technology can go into a completely wrong hand and can create trouble for human beings. And to some extent, it is true. Of course, cinema is always exaggeration, but the problem still exists. Okay, we should be careful about the technology. So Unimate is the first robot that was developed in the year 1961. It was developed by General Motors. The purpose why they made this is for making the operation of machinery. Okay, so the machinery should be moved from one place to the other. So they want to automate this operation. So for this purpose, they have used Unimate. Okay. So for handling purposes, this has been used. And when you want to make a robot of your own, what are the components you should make sure are there? So the first thing you would like to have is sensors. Okay. So sensors are very important. You can correlate the sensors that are used in robots with the sensors of or senses of a human being. For example, the sight of a human being is paralleled by the CMOS image sensor, okay, and micro mirrors that are used in a robot. And similarly, the body balance is done by inertial systems, okay, and then audio is done by microphones, ultrasonic sensors, okay. Even you have smell is replaced by gas sensors, so not exactly a smell, but it is equivalent to that, so to say. Okay, so humidity sensor for comparable to taste. So these are all some of the applications or some of the types of sensors that we use in a robot. And in a robot, we have the next component is effector. So effector is something attached to the arm or the uh, holding device of the robot. So in the holding device, you will have some kind of grippers or tools for different handling purposes. Okay. You want to handle something very light. Okay, so you have a very soft support that is provided in the arm. So these grippers and tools are something that are used as effectors. We call them the end effectors. And then we have actuators. Actuators are nothing but the component that will help the robot move or do some action. Okay. Again, we have three types here: pneumatic, electric motor, and hydraulic motors. Based on the purpose and requirement, we will use one of them. And then we have controllers. So this is the main control, like the motherboard in your computer. So this is what is going to convert the code we write into the commands. And then we have the arms themselves, like these arms will be changing based on the requirement. So you have Cartesian arms, like cylindrical arms which rotate, okay, and you have polar arms, then you have jointed arms, and you have SCARA arms. SCARA is one of the very first models of robots that were developed. We will see a small code also about that. So this is about robots. Then we see the applications. So there are different applications. For example, the Mars rover you are seeing here in the image is an example of autonomous robot. It's also mobile. That means it can move on its own. Remote controlled to some extent, yes. You can give commands from the Earth observatory, and then it will respond accordingly. So that is remote controlled as well. Virtual, that means there is no actual physical robot, but the job of a robot is done by some code. Okay, that is a virtual robot. Then we have stationary robots, which are widely used in the industries for different purposes. Let's say it is welding, it can be assembly of automobiles, it can be spray painting, whatnot, pick and place for handling operators, everything. Those are all examples of stationary robots. So we will see a small presentation about these stationary what we call robots that are used in the industries. Okay, it is from the company ABB. We also have the same one of the application robots from ABB in our lab also. It is used for pick and place purpose. Okay, some 10 applications we are trying to see here. Okay. So the first application is the arc welding. Okay. Simple terms, we can say a welding device. Okay. So it is very difficult for a human being to do it with very high precision. Okay. So there is one hand which is coming here and placing the object here, and there is another hand coming and welding it. That is arc welding. Okay. And the second one is spot welding. So at a particular location, if you want to do welding, instead of along the length, you are going to use spot welding there. So for example, you can see here, you don't do it everywhere, only at a particular location you are doing spot welding. Okay. Example of spot welding. Okay. So you can see some robotic arms. They are fixed to the ground, but they are moving here and there and doing the job. Next one is material handling. Okay. So material handling, lifting things, moving them to their corresponding position, or assembling some parts, okay, or checking some parts when they are going through the process. For all these purposes, we use stationary robots. Next one is machine tending. Okay. So in machine tending, so we are using the robot here, and you are going to give the place the what we call the logo or the name at wherever the place you want to give it. Okay. Next one is for painting. Okay. So now often it so happens that the painting environments are very chemical, filled with chemicals, and it's not a good idea to operate for a human being to operate in these areas. Okay. The people who are working in these areas use it to fall sick very often. So you can even replace them with robots. Picking, packing, and pelletizing. So you pick the items, you pack them, okay, you put them into a box, okay. So all these jobs can be done with a robot. Okay? So you can see these are all robots. So robot doesn't exactly need to be looking exactly like a human being or like a biped, as we have seen earlier. Okay, these are all examples of stationary robots. Next one is cutting, grinding, deburring, and polishing. So these are all the mechanical operations that different operations that we do on a component, okay, to give it the right shape and texture. Okay. And then for gluing, adhesive sealing, and spraying materials. So because we are doing it with machines, you are going to get the highest possible accuracy. If you do it by hand, there is no guarantee that you are going to get this kind of efficiency or accuracy while doing the job. The last one is inspection, water jet cutting, and soldering. These are minor tasks, can be performed by human beings as well, but still, if you want to improve the accuracy, you certainly need to go for a robot there. Next, I told you that we will look into the SCARA robot. So SCARA robot, as we have seen in the one of the previous slides, it is having two arms. So this is one of the arm, and this is another arm. Okay, these two arms, and there is a plunger here. This plunger is used for drilling holes, or it is used for any other purpose. Okay, so for screwing or for drilling, it will be used. So what we do here is SCARA actually stands for Selective Compliance Assembly Robot Arm. So, or we also call it Selective Compliance Articulated Robot. Articulated robot in the sense it is more similar to the what do you call the arm of human being. So whatever we do with human arm, that can be done here. That's the reason why we do it. And we have parallel axis joint layout. So this axis is parallel to each other, this both the links, and that's the reason why we call it assembly, because we have two arms here. And it is faster than comparable Cartesian robot system. So one I am showing here is from Mitsubishi. There are many others. So the support, the footprint, that means the amount of area it occupies is very small. So it has a very smaller footprint. That's the reason why it is used. So you can see, if you want to take the mathematical equations into picture, so you can see these are the equations, and if you try to simulate this, you can know what angle it has to be moved so that you are going to get the required operation done. For example, here the robot is expected to write hello. Okay. So if you want to do this, you have to write a code and you have to feed that code to the controller. Okay. So that we are doing. Let's say you can write. For that, what we do is we take the mathematical equations, and these mathematical equations we convert them to some code. Here I have given the example of a MATLAB code. So this MATLAB code, you can implement it within the MATLAB environment itself. You can see whether the robot is going to perform the task you are expected to do not. And this code is then transmitted further onto the robot, where if you implement it, it is going to do the job. Okay. So then what is the future that robotics is going to offer? Okay. Robotics is going to be used for teaching, not exactly directly as a teacher, but it will be doing the job of helping understand the students' difficulties. Okay, sometimes the students may not be able to express their opinion or their difficulty in understanding properly. So based on the answers provided by the students, these robots will be able to judge where they are struggling or where they need some support. Then for process automation, this is one of the key areas. In all these areas, whatever the examples I have given for the future, artificial intelligence is going to play a very big role. Okay, it's the next disruptive technology that is coming in the world now. Okay, robotics plus artificial intelligence. So that's where your programming skills as well as your mechanical skills will come in handy. Okay. So autonomous space application, you can see there, it's called Burrowing Space Robot. This robot has been developed very recently. 2 days back, this has come in with news. Okay, this is used for burrowing into the moon's environment or moon's soil. Okay. And then people are slowly moving on from humanoid robots to semi-humanoid robots, so that the communication between the humans, for example, in the future, everybody foresees that there are going to be more robots interacting with the people, even in the public areas. So it is better that the communication between the humans and robots is very clear. So that's the reason why people are moving from humanoid robots to semi-humanoid robots now. And one of my favorite areas, drone technology. So this has grown tremendously in the past few years. So now drones are intelligent enough. Again, artificial intelligence is coming into picture. So the drone is able to understand the environment surrounding it and responding accordingly. For example, there is some danger coming. So, for example, a drone is flying, suddenly somebody has shot a missile onto that one. So the drone is equipped enough to understand the threat that is coming towards it and avoid the danger. Okay. So these are all some of the future of robotics. Okay. So where exactly all these things help you? So they are going to help you in choosing your career paths. Okay. So one of the most common paths used for robotics and numerical modeling is they start with mechanics in mechanical engineering, then they go for mechatronics, they study about the materials, and then they go for mechanical design, then control and automation. Okay. So a combination of all these will make a very good robotics engineer. Okay. And all these areas are going to be very big in the coming days. Okay, so we are going to find a lot of jobs. So the whole market scenario is going to change. Okay, like what we have. So the difference we have seen when there were no computers and computers. Okay, they will not kill the job market, but the type of job you need to do will be changing. Okay, so you might be into designing a robot, you might be into manufacturing a robot, you might be into what do you call troubleshooting a robot. So like this, what all you have seen now with respect to computers, you will be seeing with respect to robots and numerical modeling as well. Okay. Um, then you have, if you understand the technology here, so you can see here there is a report. Okay, so that is from TechRadar, that is taken in 2017. It's more than 4 years back research. At that point itself, it is clearly told that we are catching up with the what we call the robotics and numerical modeling technology. And according to Career Moves, from production line robots to experimental robotics and several other industries, the future has a lot of career opportunities for robotics engineers and related professionals. Okay, so the future is actually going to lie with robotics and numerical modeling. And what do we do at Geetham for this? Okay, we have one among many things. One is we have a numerical modeling lab where we help the students design the codes. Okay, so how to write a code for example, in the image here you can see a pick and pull what we call robot. So this is from ABB, pick and place robot, and this robot has it can take up a payload of 3 kgs. So the specs of the robot are given here. It can take a payload of 3 kgs. It can reach up to 580 mm. It is fastest 6-axis robot in ABB range. Accuracy is 0.01 mm and it has a footprint of 180 mm squared. Okay, so the area here that you get here, it is 180 mm squared. The weight of this robot is approximately 25 kgs, and we also have Python programming wherein students can learn Python programming and then improve upon their codes with respect to artificial intelligence. Okay, and I have a small video here. Just play it for a while. And so this is pick and place robot, which is switch off the audio here. Yeah. So this is used for picking up the items and then placing it in the required position. So you can give the code accordingly. So whatever the code you give, accordingly it is going to do the job. Okay. So it knows where to identify the object and then pick it up and place it accordingly. So similarly, it is going to pick up all the 3 items and then place all the 3 one over the other. Not only this, students will take up a lot of projects. Okay, so in these projects, what students will be doing is they will be preparing some bots. For example, I am showing here one of the, of course, of the many examples. The recent one I am showing, this is a farm bot that was done by one of the student groups for watering the plants. So whenever it is required, they have the sensors in this one for identifying the moisture, watering the plants, and so on and so forth. Okay. So I will use there here. So just quickly go through the video because I think I'm running short of the time. So these are different sensors, and so you can say that is one of the actuators. This is the control board that you have. Arduino based control is used here. Testing of the board is done here. This is one of the form bots they have developed. Okay. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you, College Dunia, for giving me this option. If
Thank you,
anybody
sir.
is having any questions, I would be happy to answer.
I think there are few questions, sir, on the right hand side. You can see.
Yes.
Should I read it out for you?
Yeah, I will try to have a look at them.
Okay, sir.
Yes, right. So what are the practical applications of this? Of course, it is practical. Everywhere we are going to use this. I don't know if you're talking about numerical modeling, Mayank Sharma. Uh, so um, there are many applications that are coming up. Okay, so in industries already people are using it, and it is already practical. It's not theory anymore. And Mr. Ravi, sir, any references to understand this in detail? Of course, there are many books available online. How to do numerical modeling and how to write codes for robots. Specialized on robotics itself, you have some what do you call some books written. There are a lot of literature available online. Okay, you can go through that. Even there are some websites wherein you can learn how to write a code and how to make your own robot, let's say. So again, Mr. Ravi, are there any softwares for numerical modeling? Also, are there any free softwares? Of course, there are many. There are many softwares like ANSYS, Abacus. These are all one side of modeling, like CFD simulations, understanding the strength of a structure, and so on and so forth. That is one aspect of it. And the other side of numerical modeling, let's say about what we call the robots. If you want to write a code for robot, like what we have seen for a SCARA robot, there you need a software like MATLAB or Scilab. Scilab is also one. Or if you are using a Arduino chip or Arduino controller, so you have to write code accordingly. So if you are using Raspberry Pi, it changes again. So you can use Python there. So depends on Python. Let's say is free software. Scilab is free. MATLAB, of course, is not free, but I think academic purposes they have a cheaper version, I would say. Okay, so you can look into that. Sumit, how are the engineering placements at Geetham? Of course, they are very good. I think you can check the website. Certainly more than I think 98 or something, if I am not. But I'm not really sure about the number, but they are very good actually. Yes. Priya Agarwal. Are there any robotics related subjects or specialization at Geetham? Of course, you have the option of selecting the subjects based on the specialization you would like to do in your master's, let us say. So that's what we all suggest the students also. So for example, if you want to, some students, they want to do their masters elsewhere in the world. So then they will be looking for subjects, whatever they would like to specialize as masters in the coming days. So they also certainly subjects related to robotics are there. And as I told you, Python coding is there, which can help you to make up for the artificial intelligence programming and Raspberry Pi programming, then Arduino programming. And there are sometimes some specialized lectures arranged for the students so that they can learn during the workshops. Also, they can learn the robotics related topics. Again, Sriya Agarwal. Also, how is the future career opportunities in robotics? Can we get opportunities from Geetham? Certainly, the future is very bright. You can look into the websites or online searches will certainly tell you that robotics with artificial intelligence is the disruptive technology in the world right now. No second thought about that. And opportunities, especially in India, if you say, they are right now they are picking up. The applications have started increasing nowadays, and I believe in the coming days they are going to be much higher as well. So Maya Punawat, in your opinion, is robotics or robots a threat to humans as they show in movies? Is artificial intelligence, machine learning capable to develop such robots? Is it a threat to humans? Every technology is a threat to human if it is not used properly. Okay, so we have to have a very ethical behavior when we are dealing with any technology, for that matter. For example, the technology of atomic energy is a threat to the world. At the same time, it is useful for generation of electricity also. Okay, there is every coin has two sides. Same is the case with technology also. You will have positive side, negative side. Okay, only when you are responsible and ethical in your behavior, you will use it for the right purpose. And artificial intelligence, machine learning capable, yes, technology has been developed. Of course, officially you don't find it anywhere, but people are working on it. And there are some applications which are open in the open literature also, but most of the times it is patented or a secret work of the company which they would not reveal unless they have some financial benefit out of it. Mr. Mayank Kunawat again, sir, do you think robots can replace all our jobs and increase unemployment? No, I don't think so. See, this is exactly what people said when computers were coming also. People said computers have come, humans are not going to get any jobs in the world. Okay, now it is one of the biggest job market in India, isn't it? So same is the case with robots also. You will, as I told you, you will be working on different aspects of robots, designing robots, okay, and operation of the robots, then troubleshooting the robots. Like that, you will have different options. Okay, the job scenario will change, the job market will change, but jobs will not be vanishing. That's not true. Okay,
Yeah,
I think I have answered
you have
most
answered
of
all
the
the
questions.
questions, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for so much for joining in and answering all of your students' questions. Students and parents, I hope you have had a great session. Please log on to collegeuna.com to know more information about Geetam University, and you can directly apply for Geetam University on College Dunia. Thank you very
You
much.
can call us to me also. Thank you for
Yes.
giving me the opportunity. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye, sir.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
హలో అమ్మా హలో ఏం లేదు ఆఫీస్ వర్కే ఉమ్, ఏం లేదు ఆ, రేపు సెలవే అవును చూసి చెప్తా వచ్చిన అట్లాగే అట్లాగే ఆ, అట్లాగేనమ్మా ఉమ్, ఉమ్. రాలేదు ఎందుకు వచ్చింది రాని చెప్పింది కదా ఆ, రాలేదు ఉమ్, ఉమ్. అట్లాగే ఉమ్, ఉమ్, ఉమ్. ఆహా అదేలే ఆ, సరే ఉంటా బాయ్ బాయ్ అమ్మా సరే అట్లాగే ఉంటా బాయ్